fundamentally, I like this idea now that when you're practicing GitOps, that you get away from thinking that engineers even need really any access to any environments at all, other than some trusted SREs and support engineers. And then you have a sandbox account or set of sandbox accounts where everyone is admin. Why do I like this? Well, it's very cognitively simple. You're not getting in the way of developers. You have an account which has no critical information or access to cardholder data or PII, etc. You can always nuke it when you need to. And then for all of your pristine accounts, you are practicing sound GitOps, not with locally applied Terraform, but it's going through a continuous delivery process. Now, not all continuous delivery processes are the same. And if you are just using turnkey off-the-shelf GitHub Actions or Jenkins or Circle CI, you're going to be in for a world of hurt trying to create more policy-driven capabilities of who can do what at what times. This is why these modern tools exist. If you look back on our past recordings for the taco providers, we talk about M0, Spacelift, Scalar, and I feel like I sound like a broken record when I talk about these things, but this is why they exist, because it is very non-trivial to manage permissions for continuous delivery for Terraform. There's two problems here. One is there's three problems here, I would say. One is you have your services that you deploy to AWS. They need fine-grained IAM access controls, no doubt. That service should be only allowed to access the S3 buckets that it needs to access, right to the S3 buckets that it needs to access. Your CI/CD system, on the other hand, needs a different type of fine-grained access control. It's called admin. And it's literally needs to be able to do anything, because to do anything in AWS, including provision IAM, you really need to be an admin. So that's why it's a non-starter to start thinking about how are we going to do Terraform on the workstation and do fine-grained IAM access controls for our developers. You aren't. Instead, what you're going to do is you're going to create more AWS accounts with finer grained scopes, and you're going to define roles, and developers will be associated with those roles in groups, and that's going to determine kind of like, what they can or cannot do, which is basically nothing. You're going to give them probably a view-only level scope and permission in most accounts.
People like developers are not the problem. Mostly the services itself, like
the services themselves. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. So how do we solve that one? There are more than a few tools, including even one by Amazon, AWS IAM Access Analyzer, and I believe there's a CLI for this that will help you define the policies now, but I don't have it handy. And there's more than a few that work this way. Basically, you run your operation. That's not working for you.
We figure out the IAM permissions that the service already needs or already uses. But the thing is, like, new services and new feature require extra permissions. So I'm not able to automate it yet. So I was trying to figure out if anyone figured it out, or doing it in a way that's more automated.
I would like to take it back to what we were talking about earlier a little bit, and your job as a platform team, and also not getting in the way of your developers. So I understand what you're saying. I understand that you have more and more people active on the platform, more and more people contributing Terraform code, harder to review all the IAM policies and make sure everything's kosher. Get it. And that will, at any scale, that will ultimately be, at a certain scale, that will inevitably become a problem. But can we defer that problem until later by thinking about things more as these building blocks? So if you take it back to your team is responsible for defining the building blocks of the services that you have as best practices, and that your team is therefore leveraging those.
One of the things that we do, and I'm certainly not suggesting everybody does this, but one of the things that we do, two points that we do here that I think are important, is that one, we use sub accounts in AWS so that we have a primary account that has certain global aspects about things. And then anytime we need to do anything within other certain accounts, then we assume role to those accounts. And then the other thing that we do in one of our environments that we're getting ready to deploy across our fleets is we're not using AWS SSO yet. We're using Okta. But one of the things that really helps out with that account management is that we have another place where the accounts and groups live. And then we use an SSO with SAML to be able to get the gain the access that we need to our AWS environment. So effectively, we don't have any users in our AWS accounts.
But just to scope this back, though, remember what Sharif is really, Sharif is really asking, which I didn't interpret correctly, was how do you do it specifically for services deployed, capturing the minimum IAM permissions for your EKS cluster, so to say, or for your Redis cluster, or for this thing that's going to write to S3. How do you capture that in a more idiot-proof way? So a developer who, look, I hate it. It's powerful, but who likes writing it? And how do you expect a new person to AWS to figure out these IAM rules, especially as soon as they figure out the star operator? It's like, yeah, star, S3 : star, done, did it, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like my old boss.
Yeah.
We are using SSO for permission sets. So it's helpful for this, but for services, it is that we can't automate it. And in a perfect world, we will have like a really consistent naming pattern for everything, for the old and new stuff.
Yeah, so you need a consistent naming thing. Use tagging, and another thing we use very heavily is IRSA, so that we can. And I don't know if you're using Kubernetes. That's really only relevant to Kubernetes. But if you're using Kubernetes, IRSA is really nice.
Yeah, we're using IRSA.
Well, and it's also a good point in the sub accounts with, if you've got your lower environments where the development is going on with the new features in that's maybe where you could go ahead and you could leave the IAM open and then do the analysis against that environment, or maybe do the analysis against maybe the QA or the UAT environment just above that, where the development's not going on, but you're actually doing your integration testing on it, see what the accesses are being at, do the analysis against that, and then use that for your upper production environment deployment rollout.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, I had a boss that he had problems with permissions, so he just chmoded the directory 777.
I hate that. I hate that.
All right, Bridge Crew.
The fun thing about this is that there's no one way to do it, and that's the hard thing about it, is that given whatever situation you're currently in, it's really, really sometimes very complicated to come away with a really solid way of being able to accomplish your goal.
I forgot about IAM. I remember when that first came out.
Yeah, there's been it's a hot topic as everyone's getting more sophisticated in what they're trying to do. K9 was the other one. K9 specializes in AWS security. I know they had a product as well, I think.
K9 or K9S?
K9 security.
Oh, K9, yeah, I think that's right. I'll have to look into that more.
I have a question actually before we move on. Do you like give your CI/CD systems IAM full access to create IAM role? Like,
absolutely.
I don't feel safe about it. Like
you're not going to get.
You're not giving Jenkins admin access to your AWS infrastructure, huh?
No, to be honest, I need to add anything. I have to like give it like very small.
How else is your CI/CD process to be able to deploy anything if it's restricted itself? I mean, the thing is that your CI/CD, it's all audited, it's all version controlled, or should be. So you can actually keep track, you know exactly what it is. And in my case, I prefer to have my CI/CD have admin access, and I give myself more of a read-only access personally, because that way I'm forcing everything to try and go through the automation.
And you still need to follow the least privileges paradigm with CI/CD, but usually depending on what you're deploying with it, it has to have the access to be able to do it.
Yeah, I give it the access, but But the thing is, like, whenever I'm adding like a new feature or using a new resource, I have to like go back to its IAM role and update it. And it's a very bad process because like whenever I apply Terraform, like it failed for this permission and I fix it. Then I fail for this next permission and I fix it.
Yeah.
And it's
because you could still give it admin access and then put a boundary rules against it that basically say exactly what you do not want it to be able to do.
Yeah.
Well, one other paradigm is like if you have your CI and it only has permission to do the one thing that it needs, like deploy an image and say it hits ECR, and then you have CloudWatch rules that look at ECR, and that triggers another pipeline or another process that has permission to do the admin level stuff. That's another way to kind of, keep your CI permission limited.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
What we do is we separate, we have basically 3 patterns that we advise our customers on. And option 1 is what we've been typically doing, but are starting to move away from, and I'll show you what that is. But basically, we deploy the runners with an IAM service account that allows admin in every single account, except for the root, audit, and security accounts, because that violates the trust capabilities. So the downside with this is we have no ability to do continuous delivery to those accounts when we do that. So the evolution of this is we are going more with option 3 now, which is we enable a read-only role in every single account, and admin in every account other than those 3 I told you about, the root account, the security account, and audit account. And this allows us with our tooling to get drift detection when there's any changes in those environments, but we have to go manually apply it as an human operator. And in every other environment, we get continuous delivery hands-free. Now, the way I want it to work is very clear. And I want to give admin everywhere. And I want to require MFA in those 3 accounts I was telling you about. But our tooling, the platform, Spacelift in this case, and I don't know of any platform that would support this, needs to stop, prompt, and wait for MFA. The reason why I want this, and the reason why I don't want the unadulterated admin in the root account, is for the worst case black swan scenario. I am at a conference, I am at work, I'm on a call, I am asleep, and something is happening when my attention is not there. And for like account destruction, yeah, no, don't want that automated.